and Joey talked about it, how important it is for those guys young guys to see and experience games like that. I mean, obviously there's no fans, but still to feel that kind of intensity and the pressure, how important is that to see those games, and especially when you come out on the winning side of it?
Yeah, it's really important. I think, any experience you have in those kind of games, especially against a team who's playing for something. I think that's why it's, we play these guys at the end of the season, especially the last 4 games. We can get a lot out of those games, just being a part of that. I know, like you said, we don't have any fans, but you can just feel the tension, especially from their standpoint. Like, this is a playoff spot on the line for them. So, it's good for our guys, and making our guys aware of that. I think, we don't want our guys oblivious to it. Like, we at some point are going to want to be in that position, and we can't hide from it. Like, I always talk about, dealing with pressure, applying pressure, making sure that our guys are very aware of, when we get to that position, we need to know how to handle it, and embrace it. I think it's, use this, as a valuable asset tool that we can use for these younger guys right now.
Is there any reason in particular you decided not to go with the opener tonight?
I think it's more, it's kind of Gibby and Jordan were both kind of, making some adjustments going into these 2 starts. So obviously I wasn't going to do it with Gibby, but I think Jordan, kind of wanted to, I wouldn't say throw him a bone, but I know he's been really trying to figure things out. Same as Gibby. So to try to let him kind of go out there, and maybe if it was a situation where it was a must-win game, or, I don't know, maybe I would do it different, but, I want to kind of give him a chance to kind of show what he's been working on, and maybe change his mentality and see how that plays out against obviously a pretty good lineup. But yeah, we definitely thought about it. I just think I wanted to see Jordan go against the top guys.
You talked about mentality a lot last night with Kyle, and he talked about it as well. I mean, it's not an easy thing to change your mentality. So when you see someone able to do that, I mean, how do you replicate that with other players?
It's really difficult. And that's why I thought last night was so important for so many reasons, not just Gibby. I think it's for our entire ball club, honestly. It's a commitment. It's legitimately a commitment. Physical change, you have to change it, and you feel it. Like, it feels different and physically change, but to change your mentality it's really hard. I mean, we all know that as adults, like, it's hard to change our mentality sometimes, and just what we think. You try to talk politics with somebody, they're not changing their mentality, right? So for Gibby to kind of buy into that and say, you know what, I'm doing it. I'm going to change it regardless of whether I get hit. And I think that goes a long way throughout the entire organization. So, when we get A-ball kids, AA kids, hey man, like, you need to throw the ball over home plate. No more nibbling, no more pitching around, like, attack the strike zone. We don't care if you get hit. You'll give up some more contact, maybe even some more damage. I don't know, but that's something that, can go a long way in proving that, okay, this guy changed his mentality. And it's taken a few starts because we talked about it a while ago. But last night was obviously the first time it was in his bullpen, and then he showed it in the game. And it was a test yesterday because the first batter got a base hit on the first pitch he threw. So that was a challenge after that to say, okay, can I maintain this mentality? I just got ripped on the first pitch. Can I still throw the ball over home plate? And that's, he didn't shy away from it. Even after he walked a couple guys in the first inning, he went right back to it. And it's a good, you don't expect it to work out at a 9-inning, shutout all the time. But at the same time, like, to show that to some of our younger guys and say, listen, this was the difference. You can go back and look at the 2 starts before that, or the start before that, and you see this the same human being on the mound, just with 2 different mentalities, and one worked out really well.
Thanks, Woody. That's it for me.
All right. Anybody have first question? Sam.
Since we're talking to Jeff after you, I'm curious, just since we're talking a lot about young guys, what is he kind of meant for some of these A-ball pitchers, like you referenced, that have come up, and the work he's maybe done with them?
Are you talking about Mathis?
Yeah, Jeff Mathis. Yep.
No, he's just the influence he is. The calming influence. He's obviously very educated and very knowledgeable in the game, and how to pitch call, and what pitches to throw, and just providing that kind of guidance to those guys. It's invaluable. for a guy who's been there, done that, he's been on many teams, caught many, really good pitchers. So to just show like his experience and to explain his experience and then to show what we're trying to do and how we're accomplishing that. Like I said, it's invaluable to have that kind of experience talking to these younger guys.
TR.
I heard what you said, and I've heard that a lot. My question is, Chris, how do you balance that versus the lack of statistical production? Jeff Mathis.
From an offensive standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, how do you balance the intangibles that he provides you versus what he's giving you offensively and statistically?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely you would like obviously for somebody to be the complete player, and there's not too many of those guys that can kind of provide the type of value that he does off the field and during games and cerebrally, and then you see the production on the field. So I mean, we definitely we know his value, in the batter's box is. I feel like he's been better this year. I mean, statistically, it doesn't look as he got up to a pretty good start, but it is a fine line. Like what's more important? And I think right now, with where we're going, his value off the field is very, very important, especially with so many young guys on our team, on the offensive side, but also on the pitching side. In meetings and hitters meetings, in pitchers meetings, his input is critical at this point because we're looking to learn and develop on a daily basis. We're trying to fast forward that as fast as possible, and his expertise and his knowledge is critical for us doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff Wilson.
Hey, how do you see catcher shaping up next year? It looks like Trevino, obviously, looks like Huff's too young, and I'm guessing you'd want a veteran. How would you like it to play out next year?
Yeah, I think I guess based on what Trevino's done, he's kind of, in my opinion, earned a head start on as far as getting that opportunity. I love what he brings. I don't know if Huff's going to be ready next year, so I'm guessing we will have somebody veteran type catcher to kind of fill that role. Almost like what Mathis is doing right now. I don't know. I mean, I do value them maybe having an older guy with Trevino at some point, probably to start the season. And if Huff comes in, seems ready to roll, maybe we can make an adjustment. But I don't see Sam kind of quite being ready for that just yet.
Okay, thanks.
Alex.
Buddy, so Lyle's not going with the opener tonight, and like you said, he's making some adjustments. But if tonight's start doesn't go well, I mean, I don't want to conduct on the overreaction train, but is there a possibility that for the final two cycles in that rotation that Lyles may be pushed out?
I don't know. I'll have to wait till after to see. Hopefully it goes 7 scoreless, so we don't have to talk about it. But I don't know. I mean, it's something, he's had kind of a rough go at it lately, but we'll see how tonight goes out.
Thank you.
TR.
Apologize for cutting in line, but what is the situation with Trevino? Where is he on the road? Is he still in Arlington?
Yeah, he's here. No, he's with us. We're hoping that he can. There's still a chance he could play at some point this year. It's still in question. If it's only the last couple games, it may not be worth it. But I'm hoping it doesn't feel as good as he'd like it to. But there still is a chance that it could improve and maybe be able to play.
Is he hitting it all?
Not yet.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. Sorry.
Chris.
Yeah, kind of a similar question about catcher, but this one's about first base. At the end of last year, it seemed like Roland Guzman had a good stretch to the end, and he had some competition going into spring training. How do you see the end of this season going for him, and how that's going to impact how you guys address first base this winter going into next year?
Yeah, it is important. I mean, there's still 11 games left, so I'd like to see something good. I feel like he's made some quality adjustments. Took a little bit of a step back for a little bit there, and but I do like the conversations he's having. the quality of the bat, I keep talking about it obviously from an offensive standpoint, but, these guys, understand my expectations of, it's every at bat. It's not about whether they hit a homer or it's just the constant, every single at bat, they need to be competitive. They're going to have times where they get hot and they hit some homers, and they're going to have times when they go cold and they don't, but the consistency of the quality, I think, is what we're looking for. And I've seen it at times with Guzzi, and I've also not seen it. So, it's still up in the air. I mean, I don't know if he's still got a lot to prove, I think, to be an everyday guy. I know he's done pretty well in his career against righties, but, there's still, obviously, against the lefties, it remains to be seen.
I'm just double checking because he was optioned this year. Is he out of options now?
That I don't know for certain, but I'm sure we can find out pretty easily.
Okay, thank you.
Evan?
Hey, I may be interpreting something here, but I'm just going to go ahead and try anyway. In listening to you the last couple of days talking about Taveras, I get the impression that you would be okay with him going to spring training next year with an absolute shot to win the everyday center field job. I also get the impression that maybe you're not quite on the same plane where Tejeda is concerned. And I'm wondering what the difference in your mind between those two guys is in terms of preparation for the big leagues at this point.
Yeah, I think Taveras is, he's still got a lot to prove. And I think he would probably be, front runner, honestly, from what I've seen so far. Just like I said, in the whole, player from a mental and physical standpoint, he's been really impressive, in my opinion, just on so many levels. I do believe he's a little bit ahead of Tejeda as far as a lot of the, adjustments that he could make. Tejeda's don't count him out though. That's the one thing I've learned about Andy. He's, he can look bad a few times and he doesn't get discouraged. He talks about it. He's still got that fight in him. He doesn't get, he's not afraid to get embarrassed. He goes out there and he goes back out and competes, even in the middle of an at bat. So that's a great quality to have for a younger player. But he's got a lot to prove as well. Like he's a little bit more raw, I guess. And the thing that worries me, I guess, is the in the batter's box, lack of strike zone at times, it kind of floats on him a little bit. That's something that he's going to have to clean up and work really hard at, which he does on a daily basis. But I think, that's where Taveras, I think, is ahead of him. On defense, he's got to get more consistent. I think, I love his work. He puts really good work in. His footwork, his attention to detail is all really good. It shows up at times, and then there's other times where, like every young player, it gets exposed a little bit, where he just kind of loses his, I wouldn't say his focus, but he's just made a few mistakes, which I knew were going to happen. But just the consistency on the defensive side, I think, and then the consistency in the batter's box, is where Taveras is kind of, I think, ahead in both ways.
And on the second base situation, would you guys that would potentially go in to challenge Odor for playing time next year? Obviously, Solak would be one in your mind. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Is Tejeda in that mix, or would there be somebody else that's around that would be in part of that mix?
I think Tejeda would be. Obviously, it depends on what if Elvis comes back and lights it up and he's our guy, and he's our everyday shortstop, then yes, I think Tejeda would definitely challenge at second base, because I still believe that second base may be the best spot to start Tejeda, just because it's a little less demanding than everyday shortstop. Man, you gotta bring it every day. You can't have lapses. You got to be consistent. You got to be reliable. It's a very, very demanding position. It sets the tone for the rest of your defense. And when you have a really quality, everyday shortstop defensively, it just puts your mind at ease. When you don't, you can see it's a little stressful at times, because it's such an important position. But I think Tejeda is probably better built for second base. But he's got all the tools to play shortstop. So it's just a matter of, can he do it consistently?
And the last thing for me on second base, again, Odor has hits in his last 5 games. He's got 4 extra base hits. You could make the case that he's playing because he's hot. You could also make the case that he's playing, because he's got a potential tool in terms of that power that is lacking from your lineup. Is it a combination of the two, or?
Yeah, I think so. And it's like, I'm kind of obviously throwing him a bone just because he has been productive, and that's what we've asked him to do. So, he's not going to, like I said it before, he's definitely going to have his days where he doesn't play. And we only have 11 games left, so I'm running out of time for that to happen. But I do like what I'm seeing. His at-bat quality is better. He has been productive. I'd like to see it a little bit more consistent through each at-bat. Like I said, he can't hit a homer or double every game, so it's like the other at-bats have to be filled with, with more at times. But, he's been better. I'll give him that.
Okay. Thanks, Woody.
What kind of boost did you, I know you lost the game, but what kind of boost did Jordan Lyles give to you and to himself?
A big one. I think, both, Gibby and him, back-to-back nights, there was a lot of things that they had, planned to kind of do. And I thought Jordan threw the ball pretty well his last, especially the last 5 innings of his last outing. Just the intent, the mentality behind it, the FO, just everything seemed to be better. And he started that from the first inning today. He was in complete control, just, a homer that went 2 rows deep that, if it was 10 feet to the right, or left, we win, 1-0 maybe. I'm just, it's a little frustrating because I know Jordan threw the ball well and he deserved obviously a win tonight. And I was hoping that our offense would get something going at the end, but we just couldn't do it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Other questions, please. Chris.
Speaking of the offense, pretty stagnant and not a lot of runs, throughout all 3 games. Was there one thing that kind of stood out of why there wasn't a lot of production in the series?
I think I can speak on today. I know that, I think it has to do with the pitching. Obviously, the specific pitchers we're facing, like today, we couldn't solve the guy's curveball. We know he's got an elite curveball. It is what it is. The characteristics of it, it's a really tough pitch to hit. And, we helped him too many times. I think that was the biggest thing. He only had a couple where it was looking, like later in the game where it was actually a strikeout looking on a curveball. The other ones were all in the dirt or balls. So, we have to do a better job of recognizing that and not allowing that to happen, forcing him to throw the ball in the strike zone. When you give a guy with an elite pitch and you give that to him and you chase out of the zone, it's going to be a long night, and 15 strikeouts, shows you exactly that. So that's why I'm, more frustrated. It's like, I know we have a young offense, but we have to adjust to that and be able to adapt in game. Because he didn't do anything we didn't know he had. We knew he had those pitches, and we fell right into his trap.
First look at Apostle over at first base. What did you see from him defensively?
It was good. Honestly, I know he hasn't had a ton of playing time over there, throughout his career, but he's been working hard over there. He looked good. Honestly, he made a good pick. Held the pop-up, made a diving play on an infield pop-up. I thought it was pretty cool. No, but overall, he did a good job. There was a couple tough plays, up the line where he kind of held his ground, and the 1-out 2-way hit in I think it was the 8th inning. That was a tough play. It's not an easy play. He made it look pretty easy. So, he did a good job. He made all the plays and got a big double for us, get us to run.
Last one for me. Going back to Gibson and Lyles, these two will probably be a pretty important piece of the rotation next year. So how important is it for these guys to start really to finish the season off on a high note? That way they can kind of carry it over into next year, or is there just too long of a gap with the offseason?
No, I think they can definitely take what they've done in the last start, especially. I know Jordan had, like I said, he pitched pretty well at the end of his last start. So, like I said, I think it's something that, there's some truth behind the success. It's not like they just kind of, it was a fluke and they just kind of, they worked on some things, they talked through some things, and they adjusted some things to allow them to have success, and it showed. They brought it out there on the mound with them tonight and last night, and we need them to be good. We need them to kind of hold down the fort, obviously after Lance. If we're going to have a young team and we're going to have some young starters behind them, they need to hold down the fort. And we're not asking for, complete game shutouts and 7 innings, 2 runs every time, but, obviously just some consistency. And I know they want that as well. They've been around a long time. They want to be successful, and hats off to them for kind of really being open to the dialogue and creating these I guess, allowing these adjustments to take place on the field.
Other questions for Woody? Alex?
Woody, for Jordan, that's two outings in a row, and on this mound in Houston that he's been able to put together a good outing. Is it something that you saw different from him in those two different outings, or is it just maybe he feels really comfortable on that hill?
I don't know. Maybe he does feel comfortable here. I don't know. I mean, it's, it might have something to do with the mound. But I just know he brought a lot of what he said he was going to do out there tonight. I mean, that's all I can kind of go off of for tonight's game. In the past, that was a little bit ago, so it's hard to remember exactly what his mentality was in that start. But this one, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. He's going to attack the strike zone, go after hitters, use all his pitches to both sides, and like I said, have that intent behind the ball to go from pitch one. Not ease his way into the game. And I know he gave up a homer there in the beginning, but it wasn't a terrible pitch. It wasn't crushed. It was just, unfortunately, it's 2 rows deep.
Thanks, Woody.
Anything else for Woody? Evan Grant?
Are you going to use an opener, or is Benjamin going to start tomorrow?
We're going to probably use an opener for him tomorrow.
Use an opener just for the first inning?
Yeah.
I was just curious about this. I think we knew when Huff was called up that at the plate he was going to face some challenges because of the swing and miss and how young he was. And I expected that, the ideas of framing and game calling we talked about in spring training were big projects for him. I'm a little bit surprised. He looks like he's had a little bit of trouble with some of the elements of the work behind the plate in terms of fielding and some of those kinds of things. Is there anything you're seeing, or am I seeing things?
No, I mean, there's definitely some things, and it's a small sample. So, obviously we're always watching everything. So if it becomes more of an issue, then, we can relate it to more of like, hey, we need to work on those things a little bit more. But I think it may be just, honestly, first few games in the big leagues, you might get those jitters, those, little anxiousness as a young big leaguer.
Right.
But overall, I think as the games kind of have gone on, I feel like he's gotten more comfortable and just kind of, because he's a good receiver. He's really athletic behind the plate, especially for a big guy. Typically, like blocking side to side, he's really good at it. So, I mean, the ball out in front of home plate, I don't know if it was pretty sticky and threw it in the ground, but whatever. I mean, it's I'm not too worried about it until it starts becoming more consistent. I'll just relate it to early big league.
That's what I was wondering. Thanks.
Yes, TR.
Chris, do you have a candidate for the opener tomorrow?
We might go actually with Jimmy Herget, but I'm not confirmed.
So it's not going to be DeMarcus Evans?
No, I wouldn't want his first outing. I don't think that'd be fair. I would love to. I think he'd be a really good candidate to do it. I just don't want that to be his first outing.
Okay, Jimmy's a nice guy, but Evans would have been a much bigger story. Thank you, John Blake.
Okay.
Thanks for making me laugh.
Thanks, Woody. We got Jordan Lyles coming momentarily.
All right. Thanks, guys.